Is Business Today on ChannelEye. Now on this program we talk about business, entrepreneurship and much more. On today's episode we are going to speak about AI and the challenges in being an entrepreneur, the journey to get there, as well as apps and technology as well. Now to do so we have with us in the studio Ms. Lakmini Wijesundara. She's the founder and executive director of BoardPack and IronOne Technologies. Good evening and welcome to the program.
Hello, hi, thanks for having me.
A pleasure. All right, so let's start off with a bit of an introduction about your career, how you began and how you got to where you are now.
Sure, Prashant, thanks. So it's quite interesting. So right now I operate two companies in the software field. So obviously I'm an entrepreneur. One is BoardPack, the other one is IronOne Technologies. Both are global companies right now. So kind of talking about how I started. I was a math student at Ladies College at a time that there were only like 4 math students in a batch of maybe like 90 people. Okay. So this is not really like a Sri Lankan sort of context, because when I went to my higher studies in London, there again, I mean, if you take girls, there were only like 10 girls in a batch of 100. So this went on, and I obviously love Sri Lanka, so I came back to do something here. So my studies were in engineering, electronic engineering, and along with that. And after I came back, I wanted to first experience how companies worked, how technology worked. So I started off with a startup. In a I think this is a familiar name in Selinco. Right. It was called CCOM. It was to give internet to the whole country at a time that internet was, I think, only in Colombo. This is some time ago. So I was there. Then I joined Lanka Bell. Lanka Bell still stands as a telco. So I did engineering jobs there, engineering technology management jobs, but moved on and started my own. And these two companies now. So yeah, so that's kind of my career.
Okay, and what was the reason you wanted to become an entrepreneur instead of just carrying on in the conventional path?
It wasn't planned, but I think I'm generally a person who likes freedom, maybe. I think that's the word I can sort of use. So obviously I really enjoyed my work at both Lanka Bell and CCOM. Especially Lanka Bell, because there was like a lot more scope and things. And while I was there, I found, so obviously I learned electronic engineering, which is more hardware. But when I was at Lanka Bell, I stumbled across software. And Lanka Bell actually started building its own software for all of its billing, all of its customer care. I think it still stands, what we built then. And I got involved in it. I really loved that. So along with this freedom, I always felt, Lanka Bell being a local servicing company, I felt that there's a lot going on globally. So kept on talking to people who came on holiday from overseas, friends living overseas, to find out if there was something more. Right. So through this experience, I came across a friend's friend in Boston who was looking for a entity to do software here, like startup. So that triggered. I must say that despite my risk gene, it took me, I think, over 6 months to get convinced that I could do it. Because initially, when you're working for a company, you're quite safe. The worst case is if you can't do something, you can quit the company. The company goes on. So having to have my own staff, being in an engineering background, not really a financial background, I wasn't sure whether I knew how to do all of it. But somehow my friend overseas, slightly digressing into that story, when I was dithering, he said, come over. So this was in Boston. So I went to Boston. Suddenly I'm seeing like a new world there. Like the opportunities there in terms of, there were people exiting from universities, starting startups. I mean, you don't hear of it here, right? So people are not finishing their courses, they were doing startups, they were getting funding, and I suddenly thought, my God, I got to leave Lanka Bell. So I came back and told my bosses, I got to leave. I mean, I was having a really good career there. So I was quite happy until I saw this other thing. And then I suddenly, after I made the decision, that was it. So when we started, I think we started with like about 7 people in my parents' garage. So it's quite different. And I jumped into it not really understanding the finance part of it. Having said that, like as an entrepreneur, we have to jump into a lot of things that we can't find answers. And we have to find the answers while we're at it. I'm not saying that's a best practice. I'm not advocating it or something, but I think there's no choice, because as an entrepreneur, we don't have all this. But this was at a time that there was no ecosystem. But today, if you're an entrepreneur, there's a massive ecosystem like ICTA/Com, Hatch. They have accelerators, they coach you. There are people who have done entrepreneurship before you, who can coach you. So it's much better. So the reason, like you asked me, is I just wanted more control of what I wanted to do. Whereas if you're in a company, you have to do what you're sort of asked to do within a boundary.
True, yeah.
So, and but having said that, I mean, people talk about like saving humanity, or you know, I mean, my first thing was a little internal, where I needed that. But of course, you know, we are doing good things. So when now actually we have like over 200 people, professionals in IT. These people, some like majority are from rural places, because from University of Moratuwa, Colombo, Peradeniya, SLIT, IIT, you know, multiple places. And therefore we are generating foreign currency and paying these people, and some of them are actually getting foreign currency itself. So it's just flooding the country with economic wellness. So there's that, and of course,
Okay. Now, before we move on, just from what you said that in the United States, for example, university students, they leave their courses, or maybe right after university they start off, they just get into the business world, and they maybe start up a startup company basically. And you said we don't really see that much in Sri Lanka. What do you think is the reason for this?
Okay, so that comment was in fact mostly at that time. I think it's better now, because now this ecosystem has started. So when you're a student, I'm not saying, I'm not really, I mean, I finished my degree. I have a little story on that, because my father at that time, I said, I don't want to do A-levels. I don't need A-levels. You know, there are some things I want to do. I can do it. So my father was academic. He said, just do it. You will thank me later. I do thank him. I mean, he's not alive now, but I do thank him now, because it's not what I learned in A-levels. But if you don't do your A-levels, even today, you don't get a chance to explain that you didn't fail your A-levels. Right? Because if you don't do your A-levels, people might think you are not good enough to do A-levels. Right? And then, of course, the fact that I went to the University of London, they wouldn't take me if I didn't do A-levels. So I hadn't really thought of that. So as a child, you sort of think, you know, this is there or that is there, and whatever it is, and someone older generally guiding you, because it's a couple of years only, right? Like A-levels is like 2.5 years. The courses are 3 years. In your life, it's a short time after that. So I'm really glad, because today I come here and say I did the University of London, and I got, you know, merit or whatever, you know, good results on those. I wouldn't have been able to do it if my father just said, yeah, okay, Lakmini, you do what you want, kind of thing. I would have missed that. And it's a part of my life, and I think I couldn't have, I'm not saying I couldn't have built these companies, but I think the exposure I got there and the confidence through that education, not what I learned, but the fact that, you know, I went through that. So I kind of, it's a personal thing. I would advocate people to stick around a little and then do that.
Exactly. And well, that's great advice actually, because you don't really get a chance again in life to go through that period of A-levels and that education, so might as well do it at that time.
I want to add to that as well, Randa. I mean, in terms of, I heard an interview actually by Zerodha, that is one of our competitors in India for stock trading. One of the founders, he had dropped out of college. So originally in his interviews, he was quite proud of that. I saw an interview there. He said, one thing you regret, they asked him. He said, not going to the university. And he said, not because of anything, because when people are talking, like when you're older, you have your university buddies, and he doesn't have that. Like there's this network situation now. So I just wanted to share that with people who decide whether they want to, because a lot of people can go to university, right? It's just a choice, no?
Right. Well, that's true. Now you are spearheading 2 companies, but speaking about BoardPack first, tell us about BoardPack, what you do as a company, what it is.
So BoardPack actually took off out of everything I've done. I mean, there are multiple successors, but BoardPack really is going to be the first unicorn. I can see it. It's going to happen pretty soon. So BoardPack is a company where we are giving services to large enterprise right now. It's not limited to Sri Lanka. We started testing it in Sri Lanka. It's for board meeting automation. So a large company has, if you take a pyramid, the topmost is the board chairman, and then you get the CXOs. So we serve that lot. So they run their decisions through meetings, board meetings, exco meetings. So this is a specialized solution for them. So our first client was Nations Trust. Actually, it came as a request from them, because otherwise they're using paper or email, which is quite the confidentiality level is quite risky, because this is you're approving like people's salaries, big deals, and if it goes to the wrong hands, and there's been talk about people leaving packs on planes and a company crashing, right? So we've taken all that risk out, plus made it very easy for these busy people to do it. So it's very popular. So Nations Trust, Bank of Ceylon, it just went on like that. And then we went to Malaysia, like quite earlier on. Not planned, it just happened because I went to SLT. SLT has Maxis, Malaysian company, as their investor and board. So they invited me there. So we didn't bat eyelid, we just like went. We got the Central Bank of Malaysia, we got the Stock Exchange of Malaysia, the largest banks in Malaysia, and suddenly I got a chance to build the product to fit companies which are 50 times bigger than Sri Lanka. Like if you take the largest bank in Sri Lanka versus Malaysia, it's easily 50, maybe 100 times more. So like it got made for global, and then we went out to other countries. So that's so BoardPack really has about 50,000 board members using it. We are getting some substantial funding this year, so I'm working on that, because what's between this and being a unicorn and actually being the category leader of board meetings in the world is we need the capital to get the sales out. Technology is ready. Like last week we got the 4th largest market cap bank in the world, HDFC Bank. It's in India. We won it open tender. So like literally the 4th largest bank in the world is next month going to have board meetings on the Sri Lankan software. So it's
that's great. Now for those of you listening out there, if you don't know the meaning of unicorn, you mentioned that a couple of times before. Do you mind just explaining that in brief?
Absolutely, I'd love to. So I'm an advocate of getting unicorns into Sri Lanka. So unicorn, the definition of it is a company that is $1 billion valuation, but not listed. So most of the tech companies that get funding and grow fall into that category, and usually your revenue, if it's 100 million, 10 times of your revenue, if it's an innovative product, you can get your valuation. So that's $1 billion. 100 million into 10, $1 billion. So that's the first target. We are getting to reach the $100 million revenue. So in the world, there are about 1,002 right now, 1,002 unicorns. Over 500 in the US. India is rapidly growing, like Ola to so many. I think they've crossed 100, 130 maybe. Sri Lanka doesn't have any.
Right.
So we really have to get Sri Lanka on the map. It is also important because if you take like AI readiness, technology readiness, our ranking in Sri Lanka, it's a column asking, do you have unicorns? And we get 0 from 100.
Right.
Just like that, by not having a single unicorn. So that's the importance.
Right, okay. Now, when it comes to the other company, IronOne, tell us what that company is about as well.
So actually that's my original company.
Okay.
So BoatPack came subsequently when we found this boat portal situation. So that company has two things. One is AI. So we have this AI labs where we are doing artificial intelligence projects and trying to innovate just like BoatPack on that artificial intelligence area. Then the other one, many of your audience might know this because it's a stock trading product. So if you're trading in Sri Lanka, Colombo Stock Exchange, it is highly likely because 95%, close to 100% market share is ours, IronOne's.
Right.
It's a platform called A-Trad. You can trade on your mobile.
Yeah.
You sound familiar.
Yes.
You can trade on your mobile or your web. So that we've pretty much captured the country's market.
Okay.
That's my first product.
Right.
And we've taken it out overseas as well, so like a couple of countries, Nepal, Bangladesh, etc. But now I want to get to bigger markets. I mentioned Zerodha as a competitor. It's not, maybe I'm announcing it a little too early, but so we see that even India, they have like about 3 to 5% usage of trading. Like they have a couple of, over 1 billion people, right?
Right.
So the usage is very low. So we believe that this model that we built in Sri Lanka, just like BoatPack, we can take it out to India. And because I have the edge with BoatPack, because BoatPack is used by the Reserve Bank of India, to the largest banks in India, and pretty much all the top decision makers in India are using BoatPack. So they kind of know me as a trusted vendor.
Okay.
So we're going to just go and give A-Trad.
Right.
So that's my next plan.
Great. All right. Now, whilst you're engaging in these tasks and after building your career thus far, this has enabled you to become one of the quote-unquote most powerful women in business, and you have won many awards and acclamations for this as well. Tell us how you achieved these feats. I mean, you told us about your story from where you came from and how you got here, but tell us maybe a couple of things which you feel have enabled you to really accomplish what you have. So
talking about my journey, and if you talk about like being a female entrepreneur kind of thing, there are a couple of milestones that I want to share, as well as I think it's good for female wannabe entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs to just look out for. So obviously I worked hard because I'm interested in this, and we were doing things, and then I came across this Women's Chamber of Commerce, Commerce and Industries, I think, WCIC. They had Entrepreneur of the Year award. A friend of mine asked me to, and pushed me to apply, and I had no clue what it was at that time. I won it, and that particular award, when you say you're the national entrepreneur of the year, it means that you're that one person out of everyone in the country that year, and they have it once in 2 years.
Right.
It's a massive recognition which I didn't quite understand at the time, but suddenly even at that event, so I have 2 brothers and a sister, and usually I get introduced as either my father's daughter or my brother's sister.
Okay.
Right? Suddenly my brother started saying she's the entrepreneur of the year. So they would introduce me as that. So that would help any kind of entrepreneur. So awards are that really to kind of brand yourself, and because of that, Ernst & Young Global had asked Sri Lanka to find a woman entrepreneur to represent global. That title actually helped me because when they were looking, I was only one at that time having that. They may not have, because the work I do would be great, but it's not publicized here,
Yeah.
So I would really advocate women to apply to that, and that would help them. And then of course we got like so many awards, and right now this week actually we are in the top 100 Asia's best workplaces as well.
Right, congratulations.
So, yeah, thank you so much. So that's actually like a people's award, because the people have to say, do they think the company is a great place?
Right.
And great places to work, Sri Lanka is incredible, really. So.
Okay. Now, being an entrepreneur, being a CEO, and being a founder as well, there are challenges which come with it. What are some of the major challenges you face, and what have you done to overcome them?
So I'm going to go quite differently to like the standard answers you might get here. So very specifically for a entrepreneur who is starting up a company from zero, you first have to motivate yourself, believe. So it's almost like, I think Theodore Roosevelt said something like, if you believe you can, you're halfway there. And I think, I'm sure there's many quotes just to say the belief is like really important, because your belief, then you have to make a team believe that they can do something supernatural. So like when I say we're going to be a unicorn, I say it very casually because I'm so used to it now. But like when I used to say it like a couple of years ago, people were like, how can there be unicorns in Sri Lanka? We are like a small country.
Yeah.
You know, you have to keep repeating this, right? So the first one is motivation as a startup CEO, founder CEO, so that you have to grab a group of people into like a nothingness, like the garage. And these will be like accomplished people who can be working in like a multinational.
Right.
So they have to believe that it's worth coming into this thing to make something crazy, right? So that is the first thing. And then of course, you know, to continue and get it done, you know, once you grow to like maybe about 30 people or whatever, you have to delegate, and you have to coach and mentor, because you cannot run it yourself. And of course there's like things like you have to focus on, I mean in general I would like to say you have to focus, like in a country like Sri Lanka, we must focus on global, because the market is so small. If we start infighting for 200 companies or something, so things like that. So the CEO really has to create something from nothing if they're running a startup.
Right, okay. So those are some of the challenges that an entrepreneur will face when starting on their own. Great. Now, when it comes to the topic of AI, this is a trending topic which is spoken about a lot in this industry, and you can see from photography to television to all sorts of industries, AI is becoming a dominating factor. Now, when it comes to your industry as well, do you mind speaking to us a bit about the importance of AI and what it brings to the table?
Absolutely. So I'm kind of glad that you brought this topic up. So if I start off on why AI is important in general, there's this concept of fourth industrial revolution.
Okay.
We are currently in that. I'm sure, you know, in our textbooks or whatever, we've heard of the first industrial revolution, you know, the steam, the second, third, and generally what we have to understand is the industrial revolution splits the world to the haves and the have-nots, adopters, not adopters. So at the moment, I think Sri Lanka is not quite aware. I mean, previous revolutions, electricity and all, it would have been a very financial matter that we couldn't adopt early. But today, we have internet just like Silicon Valley. We have the facilities, and it's a decision. Are we going to be adopters or not? And the technologies in this industrial revolution are a bunch of things. And in Davos in 2016 World Economic Forum, they announced this is the fourth IR.
Right.
So it's been a while. It's not like yesterday. So other countries have started. AI, blockchain, drones, IoT, there's about 9 technologies. AI certainly is something that, you know, with ChatGPT and everything, everyone knows that it's like electricity in that day, if you'd have AI or not. So I'm really glad to say that the president of this country, Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe, he put a task force for AI, national AI. So which means that the country from the top has said we are going to be adopters. He also has said that we are going to be a first world country. We're going to try to be a first world country by about 2050, I think.
Right.
You know? So he's put it a little far because people have to believe it. But if we adopt AI, I mean, I personally also believe that if we don't adopt AI, we're going to be what we are. We're going to be left behind. If we adopt AI, we have a really good chance because AI is relatively new. And this is one technology we can catch up because others haven't gone as far. You see?
True, yeah.
So there's that element. So I'll describe a little more. So there's two areas. So one is adopting it here to make sure that every industry that we have that matters is competitive. Because I mean, if you just think, I'll say a very basic thing like agriculture or potato or some onions, right? We are growing this without AI, with the normal way at a particular price. So maybe we are cheaper or something like that. But with AI, if the surrounding countries make their stuff more productive and they deliver it like half the price or 1/10 of the price, we are done. That farmer will have to, you know, it's too late. So actually, so in the country, we have to start looking at where should we adopt, you know, with knowledge, become much more productive, healthcare, manufacturing, or all those different industries. So that's part of the task force. Industries have to be looked after, protected from AI coming in from other countries.
Right.
Other one is we should take AI, we have a very good engineering community, the startup. So to fuel that, get funding in so that we have startups that will create AI and make foreign currency, like the board packs or ATRADs, AI companies. So that's the area. I mean, if I go a little further on it, education, even to the little children, middle school, the curriculum is getting AI. Teachers are getting trained AI. When I say getting, 2024, I think the budgets will have these. That's my understanding. It's seriously taken by the country, and I think we should be glad that our leaders have recognized it, because we don't want to miss this fourth industrial revolution.
Right. We have to catch the train before it leaves the station.
Absolutely, absolutely.
And how do you think AI will transform careers when implemented? So
again, I mean, what we know in a very simplistic manner is anything repetitive, generally repetitive, robotic jobs that we are doing, chances are this technology will automate it.
Yeah.
So even whether it's let's talk about coders or software development, already like lots of software developers are using AI to make their code so that they can do more productive things. If they were like coding for 3 days for a particular program, they might do it in half a day now, because repetitive stuff is done by AI. They will do the thinking stuff.
Right.
So any other area also that is repetitive, we may not see it now. Within, I would say by 2030, if we haven't adopted, there's going to be some kind of situation to those who are not adopting AI for that kind of thing.
Right.
So but as an example now, teachers, in their career, they will have to start training people on AI. So all this will come. I mean, it's not as if people are going to be asked to do it themselves. Looks like the government also is putting effort on it, and you know the community is putting effort on it. I don't think people are seeing it yet, but when the children start learning, automatically this whole thing will drive up.
Right.
I also just have to mention, like if you are in industries, if you take, let's say, freight forwarding or even manufacturing, I mean, just think of there are compliances coming that couldn't be done earlier. As an example, manufacturers in Europe and US have been told that unless their suppliers have to be compliant on ESG and carbon and things like sustainability for them to use it. Otherwise, they will not, that manufacturer won't be compliant. So this is like if you take Nike, I'm just saying, let's say the shoelaces, the manufacturer is non-compliant, they won't be able to make the shoe, right?
Right.
So why is it important to Sri Lanka? Now, if you are like a software company, ecosystem, we can get onto those industries and work with European companies and give them the technology.
Right.
So there's a lot of opportunity for us to both ways, in and out.
Right. Okay. And do you think AI will completely eliminate the need for humans in a particular task, for example, a software developer when it comes to developing code? Or do you think the humans will work hand in hand with AI to really?
So that's also a very interesting topic, because there's a massive pillar called ethics and moral. So any program, any machine that we build should be for us, no?
Yeah.
I mean, the machine shouldn't become something bigger than us. So there's this massive movement. I mean, even in the task force, the ethics and moral, we're trying to figure out what other countries have, because they are ahead of us right now, to figure out how this control is done, because laws have to be put that people shouldn't create things that would be detrimental to people, like their jobs and things. There should be some reasonable level, right? Not get rid of jobs.
Yeah.
So that will also come in. I think it's discussed. It's not implemented, I think, globally, but it has to come in. So in that sense, it should make us do things faster.
Okay.
Like it should, like let's say you're sick, and the doctors take like 3 days to get whatever the analysis. They would be able to just do it at your consultation, because AI has quickly done that. It doesn't eliminate the doctor, because he has to think of it humanly, but the reporting is quickly done by AI.
Right. Okay. Now, when it comes to being a big player in the industry and having to operate and manage different people, dedicate certain tasks, how do you manage to maintain a work-life balance? How do you do this?
So that's really a quite an interesting topic, because I mean, I'd like to say, as an entrepreneur who's going to, who's set out, like me, who set out a highly challenging path. I mean, it's always a choice, right?
Yeah.
A highly challenging path. You can't achieve something difficult without spending a lot of time and focus on it. So I don't really call my work work. It's like my passion or hobby or something. So the work-life balance definitely is tilted towards these hobbies, let's say, or passion. So that's me personally, but I think entrepreneurs, when they start off, they will have to. I mean, there's no way if they are gonna just do a 8 to 5 job and take time off, that company is not gonna, you can't, like if you're starting with 0, you can't have 20% growth.
Yeah.
You have to have like 300% growth. Like you have to be 3 times your size every year, at least at the initial stage, and then flatten out. But so if, like for anyone, a student or a young person who wants to come to a career, if they want work-life balance, I think a large company with structured, work-life balance will fit them. But if they want a bit of a exciting roller coaster ride, startup community, I mean, they'll love work, because it'll be, the results will be theirs. Like I mean, I'm just saying, like this HDFC, I wasn't particularly involved, so my team. So they killed themselves to win it. And this win is theirs now. I think my regional managers in India, in Mumbai, I saw pictures of them celebrating. So it's like each person in the company of a startup is an entrepreneur in a sense.
Yeah.
So there's like a lot of fun in that. So you can be in a large company also, obviously be happy, and you can demarcate and go home and do your stuff then.
Yeah.
So I hope that answers it. It's just a choice, like a life choice, right?
Right. And I guess when you consider yourself an entrepreneur and when you're following your passions and your dreams, really, it doesn't feel like work, I think. So you can't really call out the two as work and life, because it's sort of like a synergy at one point.
So you're exactly right, because really, if you're a founder and you're responsible for your company, you can't quit your company, right? Like if you're working for someone, even as a CEO, if you're not happy with that situation, you can quit and the next CEO will come in.
Yeah.
But if you founded it and you're running it, you can't, there's no exit for you, right? Until you exit.
Yeah. That's
so,
right.
Yes.
Okay, now when it comes to BoardPack and IronOne and maybe other ventures that you have as well, what are your future plans? What do you see for the future?
So in terms of the future, I have, like, for the companies, I have certain plans, and I have some general goals as well beyond that. So in terms of the companies, obviously the immediate future is the unicorn. I think that's doable. So usually when something becomes a little doable, it no longer becomes my goal, because it's like a little interim milestone.
Right.
So it is big for Sri Lanka, but I think with the funding we can just do it. So really, I think we'd like to make the first $1 billion revenue company in Sri Lanka. So again, sometimes when I say these things in forums, like all these large companies which are quite traditional, and which have been holding Sri Lanka. So the technology field should completely come and break it up, because not break up those companies, but break up the mindset, because it's like Silicon Valley, right? I mean, Googles and the Apples and all that came and completely disrupted and took it away somewhere. So Sri Lanka still hasn't hit that. So I really want to start that, because once one person does it, then it's like no longer, oh, like, she's nuts, I don't know what she's saying, how can Sri Lankans do it, kind of. So but it's getting a little close. I hear lots of people talking about unicorns. I hear other companies saying, I'd like to be a unicorn, we're trying to be a unicorn. So that, and the $1 billion revenue, shall we mapped it out now? It's going to take 5 years.
Okay.
Yeah. So we'll get that done.
Right.
So that's the company goal, and of course IronOne also has certain goals like that. Locally, of course, like I said, I mean, because I come from the tech industry, I'd like tech to be the disruptor for Sri Lanka. I really believe that if us, the population, decides that we want to be first world, and we work hard, all of us, we can make Sri Lanka that, you know. I mean, nobody else is going to do it for us. I mean, it's like our family, right? Or ourselves. Nobody comes and there's no handout. We have to do it, and you know, if we do it, and AI. So there's this enabler, which is like, if someone says for like 100 years we never could do it, but how come? So there's new things like AI.
Right. Okay. Now we've reached the end of an insightful discussion, but before we wind up, I'd like to ask you if you've got any advice for the young entrepreneur, the businessman listening out there. What would that piece of advice be?
So I would really say for entrepreneurs in Sri Lanka, considering we're a relatively small country, especially tech entrepreneurs, the world is out there. There's a global world out there. Technology, we are equal. We have all access to any tool set anyone in Silicon Valley has. So just to keep our mind that we can actually do anything. We don't have to do like Southeast Asian stuff. We don't have to do Sri Lankan stuff. So we have to really make an effort, and we have lots of friends and family now in overseas countries, to find such solutions and embark on such things. Like, we can test it in Sri Lanka, but do not bound ourselves to Sri Lanka in that sense. So for the entrepreneurs, that, and as I mentioned, keep eye on AI, because AI can be that startup that could, be $1 billion startup.
Right. Okay. Well, thank you so much for that valuable insight and knowledge, and for sharing all these advice and everything with us today. That was Miss Lakmini Wijesundara. She's the founder and executive director of BoardPack and IronOne Technologies. Thank you once again for being with us this evening.
Thank you so much.
And that winds up today's discussion on Business Today. Do join us next time as well. Till then, have a good night.